Hey friend, welcome to the treehouse. Want to come inside? Oh, wait, just one last thing. All right, let's go inside. Hello, welcome to Frame by Frame. Phil here, and I'm so excited to be with you today. How are you all doing? Let me know in the comments how you're doing. Anything new this week? If you're tuning in for the very first time, let me know in the chat. I would love to hear from you. Today we've got an exciting weekly challenge that we're going to be diving into, all about shallow depth of field, which is one of my favorite styles of photography. And just a couple quick updates to get us started. Let's go here. All right, so today's topic, shallow depth of field, we'll be getting to that. And one other one, which things sometimes move very slowly and sometimes things move very quickly with changes and things happening with the Photography and Friends community and everything. You've probably noticed some updates to the community over the past couple of weeks. And based off of your feedback, we are ramping up the supporter community. So nothing is changing for free members, which I got a lot of great feedback from people loving Frame by Frame, not wanting that to be something that's behind a membership, which I totally understand. And so that just means we have to make our supporter option even more enticing. So coming in March, supporters are going to get access to a lot more things. So let me take you behind the scenes really quickly. So welcome, David. Hey, happy to have you here. So if you're new to the community, take a peek around. I was just looking at the gallery this morning and just amazed at all of your photography that you've been posting. It's just truly amazing. This week, we are currently doing the In a Mirror photo challenge. That's a fun one. And yeah, I've been updating a couple titles and things here, just trying to make it clear for new members what things might be. So if you have any feedback or thoughts, as always, just send me a message. I do want to give a shout out to our supporters. Let me do that really quick, which I usually forget to do. If you're new watching this and you're not a member of the Photography and Friends community, join us at photographyandfriends.com. It's completely free. But just a huge shout out to all of our supporters right now who are helping keep the lights on and really just supporting this community, making sure that it is running and we're able to do things like these live streams and photo critique. So I'm going to try to be better at sharing gratitude for you. So thank you. And what do you get as a supporter? It's only $5 a month, and you get access to a ton of cool stuff starting in March. We're going to be launching a bunch of stuff. So here's a little preview of what you're going to get as a supporter. So we still have the supporter lounge, which is your private Q&A dashboard, which I think I'm going to leave up. Another space that you'll have access to starting in March is this chat space, which is exciting. We're going to test it out. We had the chat space a while ago when we didn't have as many members, but this is just a live chat space where we can all dialogue, chat live. It's not as formal as like posting a post and getting comments, direct feedback, direct comments. I think it'll be awesome. Also, we're going to be doing a monthly exercise. So based off of what you want to learn every month, we're going to have a theme and we'll all be working on something together, whether that's composition, editing, portrait photography. I already posted if you are a supporter, make sure that you fill out the survey, which is here, and you'll see kind of a tease at some ideas for monthly exercises. But if you have other ideas, just post them in the comments below. Something that members have been asking for so long, which I did a little bit a long time ago, was some sort of way where we can practice editing together. So every month, we're going to have one photo that we all get to edit. And these are member submitted photos. Maybe it's a photo that I take as well. But you can submit your photo here at this link, and I will pick them. Ones that I think are probably good for everyone to edit, and we'll get to see how other people edit the photo, as well as I'll be putting together a tutorial exclusive to the supporters that I'll post, walking through what I would do. And then we also have a photographer showcase. This is where we're going to feature one photographer per month, photos that they've been working on, their portfolio, just trying to support our fellow members. I think I'm going to, I feel like this is something that should be available for everyone to view. Like, we want to get your name out there. And maybe this is just something that's not dedicated to only supporters. If you have ideas, let me know. But I think you can nominate starting now. If you go to this link here, you can nominate someone or even yourself to be featured in an upcoming month. So all that to say, this is, if you click the Become a Supporter button, we have this new page which gives you more information about what the supporter membership is. Again, it's $5 a month. It's a coffee, and it just goes towards supporting us and making sure that I can keep the community going and improve it, spend more time on it, and everything. So thank you again to all of our existing supporters. I really, really appreciate you. And I got a comment from Paul. Been ill all week. Oh no. Yes, we'll see if we can give you some extra lightning bolts. So as we do, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be reviewing the Shallow Depth of Field Photo Challenge. If this is your first time here live with us or watching the replay, what I do is I go through each photo, I give it a rating 1 through 5, and then I usually give something that I like about it, or a couple things I like about your photo, and then a couple areas for improvement. Because we have so many submissions to the Shallow Depth of Field challenge, because it's a pretty fun one, I'm gonna do quick, one thing I like and one area of improvement. Now, if you know me, I tend to waffle a bit, and I don't know if I'll be able to stick to that, but we'll see. Celeste, hello. If you're in the chat, let me know where you are watching from. I always love to see who is watching live with us and where you're tuning in from. It's amazing seeing photographers joining Photo Friends from all around the world. And while you do that, so that everyone can get to know each other a little bit better, I do this often, but post your current setup right now. What camera body are you using, and what lens is your favorite to use right now? All right. Without further ado, let's get into the critiques. All right. Shallow Depth of Field. So what am I looking for? Koshala, welcome from Switzerland. Barbara, hey. I'm looking for aesthetically nice photos. That's what Shallow Depth of Field typically is. Like, most people like that kind of look. I really like the Shallow Depth of Field style. And I'm looking for the use of it in a purposeful, creative way. There's lots of reasons to use Shallow Depth of Field, which is opening up your aperture to let in more light. And sometimes you do that not for the Shallow Depth of Field aspect of it, but just for being able to expose properly. But sometimes there's ways to use Shallow Depth of Field very creatively to highlight your subject, separate them from the background, or to even highlight a part of your subject. Carrie B, what's up? David with the R5 and 24 by 240, 24 to 240 millimeter. Wow, nice. Cool. All right, so let's get into it. And as I always say at the beginning, the ratings that I give, just my opinion, my feedback, just my opinion. Please go in there and share your thoughts with our fellow photographers as well. The more you put into the community, the more you get back, and that's what I love seeing from all of our members. Hong, what's up? Carolyn, hey, happy to see all of you back here again. So, and then with my ratings, 3 stars, 3 lightning bolts, that's generally a photo that matches the theme of the week, and it's in focus. The editing's like, it's not too crazy, exposed well. That's kind of the baseline. If it's under 3, maybe some room for improvement. Anything like a 4 or 5 is something that stands out to me. So let's get into it. Drogan with the Streets of Vienna, shot with the Lumix. Nice. All right. So what I like about this photo is that the shallow depth of field draws my eye to these flowers, which I think is important for a photo like this. I think that the thing that I would probably have changed is that maybe this was a choice, and it's kind of a cool choice to put it so far on the right-hand corner with so much negative space. But because so much of the frame is out of focus, it almost takes you a second to realize that something is in focus. I kind of wish that we were... One, maybe didn't see the car. I think if we had cropped in just a little bit or composed just a little bit in, that would have been a cleaner frame. But I don't know. Seeing the car is not terrible. I think this is a great starting point, and because you're our first photographer, you get the standard 3 lightning bolts because colors are great. Hit the shallow depth of field pretty good, and there's nothing like crazy that I would change about this photo. I like the muted colors and nice color palette to it as well. So thank you. All right, Iliana, local petting zoo model from the Netherlands. Cool. Got this bird. Nice shallow depth of field. I'm going to be saying that a lot. So good thing is focus is spot on. That's really good. And the exposure is pretty good. The one thing I might have done, it's a little bright. I don't know if you use like subjects mask selection or something and brightened up the bird, which I think is actually can help. And maybe it was just naturally like this. It almost feels like there's like a mask because the bird is so bright compared to the background, but maybe that's just naturally how it would be. Maybe something you could have improved is added a little bit of contrast in the body of the bird or boosted the clarity, texture, something like that, where you can see those feathers a little bit stronger. But I like the centering. Another very solid photo. Very different from the other one, but I also am going to give this a 3. Succeed, pass, not fail. All right, Gustavo. All right, vacation in Punta Cana. Nice orchid. 5,000. Wow, 5,000 ISO. That's pretty high. And I think that's why I see a little bit of noise. Beautiful flowers. What I like about using shallow depth of field with flowers is the ability to kind of combine the essence of a beautiful flower with like the softness of your camera work, your composition. I think that it's also kind of tough with some flowers when there's multiple flowers or flower heads to like either pick one to focus on or try to get all of them in focus, especially with an orchid with such shallow depth of field. Even trying to get the entire flower, one singular flower in focus is difficult. There's something about like the angle of this post that's holding it up, this white over here that's kind of bothering me. I feel like it feels a little tilted. But I think you could probably improve that pretty quickly with maybe a crop rotate, make this line perpendicular or something. I don't know, play around with that. And then brighten up the colors. I would take your exposures up just a little bit, especially on the colors of the flower or on the petals of the flower. Bring up that exposure so that they're just a little bit brighter. But as Carolyn says, love the contrast with the background. That works really well. I do think that because the background is it looks like maybe a wall or something, the use of shallow depth of field isn't highlighted in a sense in this photo. If the background was something different with more interesting bokeh or something in the background, that could have helped as well. So for all those reasons, I'm going to give this a 2. I feel like it's got a lot of room for improvement in editing. And it's, not a bad photo at all. Thank you for posting. All right, Tiago, Canon T2i. And thank you, Carolyn and Paul Anderson, for sharing your thoughts in the comments. I love seeing your feedback live, and if someone else is watching live or on YouTube, I think you could turn on live comments and see what other people thought of your photos if you're watching the replay. All right, Tiago, the goal of this photo was to create a portrait showcasing good moments. Well, I think you hit that nail on the head with the good moments. This is just such a fun picture, and the abstractness of the bubbles in front of the face is really cool. I think that's my favorite thing about it. My room for improvement would be it's very difficult lighting. And so you've got like this highlight in the middle of the face and then the shadows on the side, which can sometimes work. And maybe you even want to lean into that with this photo and get creative where you push down the shadows quite far and get just like this super contrasty look in the exposure. Maybe, I don't know, maybe not. I think for me, this post in the background feels tilted. And that's one of my, and that is such a personal thing for me. If you watch these, I got some of you new here. David, you're new. You'll hear me talk about that a lot, but paying attention to the lines and things just to clean up your images. And you'll notice that with a lot of photography, you won't notice the tilted lines because like the greats of photography look with whether it's architectural photos or just standard photos, lines are going to be perpendicular, horizontal. Of course, there's reasons to have lines that aren't, but generally that creates like a cleaner look. So that couple pieces of advice, I would give this one probably a 3 as well. Just the creativity, shallow depth of field, pretty good. Also not like the strongest use of shallow depth of field, but it does separate your subject from the background quite well. So yeah, actually maybe it does. All right, David, shallow view at the Louvre. Ooh, I love this. I love this so much because whenever I'm at a museum, I see all the people taking photos of the artwork or the thing, and my gut tells me take a photo of the people and get the ambiance, because who cares about the photo of the artwork? Like, you could find that online. It's not creative, but something like this is very creative. And the use of shallow depth of field is really good. Straight lines. So things I like about this, look at straight lines. David did a great job. Straight horizontal lines. I don't know if he captured that like that in the photo or if he rotated and adjusted it in post. So straight lines makes it clean. And then that shallow depth of field with the Mona Lisa in the background out of focus is like, that is beautiful because you can still get a sense of what it is, but you don't need to. I think the only thing I would have loved is if the photographer was a little bit tighter in on the Mona Lisa. sort of matching the framing of your photo of the Mona Lisa with that in this iPhone. But I mean, that's just being super picky. Otherwise, I don't really have much critique. Maybe I would have cropped a little bit of the right out just a little bit, get a little tighter in. It feels like the hands are like almost centered. So like maybe I want more room on the right side to have these hands perfectly centered, or less room so that they're like not like slightly off center. But that's being super picky. I think this is a really awesome use of shallow depth of field. Definitely stands out to me, and I'm gonna jump right up to a 5-star for this photo. So really great job, David. Thank you for sharing this photo. All right. Let's go. Donnie, picture at a local park using light. So it looks like a portrait session. And that shallow depth of field is great. The sharpness is great. The color and the great photo, great portrait of this guy. Love the color that he's wearing to pop from the background as well. It feels, I guess my only question would be if the rotation was just a little off. Like he feels like he's leaning, and maybe a rotation of the camera just to match so his face is more like up and down in the frame just slightly might help. But otherwise, beautiful portrait. This is a 4-star for me. The shallow depth of field works because he stands out from the background so well, and that's just nice for a portrait. And with a lot of these editing apps now, we can really enhance that too. I mean, a lot of this I would hope that you could do creatively with your camera and lenses, but I love that Lightroom has expanded the ability to do things like making the background blurrier, because we might not have that lens that opens up to a 1.2 or whatever to get this type of shallow depth of field. And so it kind of opens up that creatively in post. But really great portrait, great lighting. I would be happy if I were him. I think, I don't know what positions you used, but again, I think my biggest thing is maybe his shoulder feels like also kind of in the way. He's a little bit too rotated, and I think that's also why the tilt of the head kind of feels like a little bit much. Rotating his body just a little bit towards you so his shoulder isn't like so much directly in front, I think would be nice. But like in terms of like a nice headshot for like a profile pic, really nice. All right, Idale. Inspiration, a story of the storm. Thank you for sharing so much text about your photo. I like hearing about it. Did you post your camera? Don't get the camera. All right, so cool car with some water droplets on it. Water droplets are always fun to photograph with shallow depth of field. I like the color vibe. It's definitely like a vibe going on. It's a cool style with like all the yellowish tones. The things that I would probably improve are, I feel like there's a little bit of masking going on where you can see the edge of the mask. It's almost like you like brushed something to make it brighter or darker. I don't know, but then you see it in the grass background. That's like super small thing. I think in terms of like a subject, it's like interesting in a sense. I kind of wish I saw the whole gosh, what is this thing called? The back of the car thing. I'm so dumb sometimes. Spoiler alert. Yes, the spoiler. I kind of wish you saw the full spoiler, and maybe like your camera was like right on the back of the car with a wide lens, if you had one, with some droplets like really close to the lens, because I feel like the shallow depth of field it's kind of works, but I want to like focus on like one or two of those droplets or see the whole spoiler. So I think it's more of like a subject and composition choice that I'm not 100% on. If you wanted to go even more abstract, getting like even tighter in or at an up angle and just seeing like the back of the car, the spoiler, without seeing any of the background might have been cool. It would probably work really well to have this photo with in a series with like the whole car. So that might work. I'm going to give you a 2 stars, leaning 1, because I feel like there's enough things that could change. For me, this photo didn't work. But that doesn't mean this photo doesn't work for other people. So thank you for sharing. All right, Alan. The snowdrops are out now in the UK. First signs of changing seasons. Nice, beautiful photo of flowers starting to grow. What I love about this is that you framed it up with the sort of leading line into the distance of these flowers. But because it's out of focus, it looks kind of cool, just like going into the distance. And the contrast is very nice. And I think you have to have that contrast because the flowers are white and you're probably exposing to them. And then the background gets so dark. A lot of harsh direct light on here. I don't really have much improvement for this photo. I struggle with taking photos of like groups of flowers like this. Usually I'm out there with my macro lens getting super close up on a specific flower or petal. But something like this is pretty nice. I like that your camera's down. I don't have a lot of critique or thoughts of how to make this specific photo better. I think there's lots of ways that you could get interesting photos of these flowers, like close-ups, but for this photo, I think it's pretty good. Lighting-wise, I think it works to some extent. It's so harsh. I would love to see this with maybe some softer lighting just to soften out, like match the softness of the flowers with the lighting itself. But for this situation, I think it's pretty good. And for that reason, I'm going to give it a 4 star. It's not a 5 for me because I don't know. Usually that's just a gut thing for me. It's like photos that just stand out for me myself. But I'm sure for some people it's a 5. And it got a lot of likes, so I'm sure it did. All right, Carlos, the Eastern Phoebe. Took this photo of this bird resting on a pole. Sigma 150 to 600. I have no Sigma lenses. Who here has Sigma lenses, and do you like them? I mean, I know I've heard that they are super high quality lenses. Some people like them even more than the camera brand, their camera brand version. ISO 2000. Wow, that is very high and fast shutter. Well, I know a lot about trying to take photos of birds. It's one of my favorite things to do. And so I know that getting a photo like this is not necessarily easy and not something where you could change a lot in the moment, because my gut says that this is a nice, beautiful photo of a bird in focus with nice background out of focus. I would love to have been to the left a little bit more so that you could see more of like maybe the belly and the face of the bird just a little bit. But I think my biggest, for this photo itself, I think the 2 things that I would probably play around with in post is just the highlight of the chest. And this was the same as the other bird. it's so bright. I would probably bring the highlights down here or the whites down or something just to see if you can get a little bit more detail back in there. And then I'd probably just crop out the bottom of this right here so that you don't see the hook come up. Just have it's such a clean photo, like lean into that cleanliness and just have like the top part in the frame. It would just be like a U of that post and crop that out. Super clean, really good. Carolyn likes it, likes the watercolor. It does look like watercolors, huh? It could have been cool because of the background bokeh that you see in the background with the yellow, I don't know what's back there. If the camera was down just a little bit and the head of this bird was like, the background was like these little gold balls kind of things, that might have been kind of cool too. But really good photo. I think for me, it's a 3. Solid photo. Great exposure or great composition, great sharpness, nice shallow depth of field as well. Lots of people like that. Maybe it should be a 4. Amber snapped this little guy on our lodge morning safari drive in South Africa. Nice. Very cool. Well, things I like about it is I like the textures that you get to see in this lizard and the wood, and then that combined with the abstractness of the shallow depth of the field in the background is really beautiful. The one thing that's I would say is off is that the focus of the lizard's face and eye it's slightly out of focus, and that can really just like I've ruined the experience of I don't want to say ruin the experience of looking at this photo. That sounds like really harsh, but I think like I want that eye to be in focus. It's natural for us as humans to see eyes and want them to be in focus. And so because that's out of focus, I feel like it's just like not quite there. This is one though where I don't mind like this diagonal line of this plank and these boards. It's just kind of a nice balance with half the frame being gold background, half being the texture of the wood. I love that texture of the wood that you get there. And you really highlight that with the shallow depth of field. I'm going to give you a 2 just because the focus on the eye is not there. But it's so close. So close. So close to being like an epic, perfect photo for me. But that's just like, it's like we're watching the Winter Olympics and doing the ice skating, and these girls they're doing the triple axels and the spins and whatever, but then like when they land and they're like a quarter of a turn before the full rotation, you hear the announcers saying, "Oh, quarter of a turn, they missed that by a quarter of a turn, that's going to be a 1-point deduction," or whatever. Or like instead of doing 3 turns, they do 2 turns, and that means like no points instead of like some points. And we're watching and we're like, how can they even tell that they're not spinning, and why does that matter so much? But it's, for me, this is my 3 full turn axle versus 2.75 turn axle. All right, so Nayeli, photo shoot with Daisy. Okay, this is an interesting photo. There's definitely a choice to crop out the eye of the pup, or the face, like most of the face of the pup. I kind of like it. It's kind of really cool to see just like the profile of the nose and then the paw. Part of me wants to see the full face or just see the paw and the hand to balance like, the human's hand. But it's It's actually pretty funny. I think my main thing that I would probably do here is I probably would have tried to get the camera down just a little bit so that the paw and the hand, the full background is like this sort of highlight in the background without this fence or this wall, whatever this is. And then straighten that out just a little bit, like, and maybe that's moving your subjects a little bit to have this wall be like perfectly perpendicular in the bottom. But such a creative shot, and the more I look at it, I like the pup's nose being there without seeing everything. I think it's just like the background, colors and things that like it's so like one tone that I wish there was a little bit more contrast, and whether that's color in the background or exposure or something from our subject. Yeah, I'm so on the fence. I don't know what you all think about the dog. If you want to see the face or the eye or not. Carolyn says, I'd like to have at least the dog's eye included. Yeah, I'm on the fence. I think there's enough for me to not give this a 4, because I think there's things like this line right here in the frame that I wish was perpendicular and straight. The background, like even like the texture and the exposure on the dog, I probably would boost a little bit, try to get more contrast or texture there, clarity to see the fur, make that pop. David also says, I would like to see the eye or just the paw and the hand. Yeah, I think that probably to have the eye would be in there would be really fun. But really good job. Good job, Nayeli. All right, Abhishek. All right, here's my type of photography. So Nikon Z8 50 millimeter, the Maryland Tulip Festival. All right. Well, I love the shallow depth of field, and this is very similar to a lot of photos. Hey, look at those ones behind me. You got the poppy, and then this, I don't know what that is. Very shallow depth of field, and it's hard to get the entire flower in focus sometimes. So I like just the general aesthetic. Like I kind of talked about before, the softness of the subject and the flowers matching the softness of shallow depth of field. It's a very nice compositional photography style to use for flower photography. Do I want to not have this red flower in the background to like have it be a little cleaner? Kind of. Or even like bringing the camera down just a little bit and just have it layered a bit more rather than like in focus and then this blob in the sky in the headroom out of focus. So maybe like if the camera was down a little bit, but it's a beautiful photo. It's nice. It's hard for photos like this with the focus to not only choose but be able to capture what you want to in focus. Like you probably could have had like a little bit more of a closed down aperture, still gotten like a super shallow depth of field photo, but made sure that you got not only this petal in focus, but like this full petal and this petal in focus as well. That might have been nice. I don't know. And maybe just a slight rotation, so that the flower feels like it's going more like up and down. But this is a tough one. I feel like I'm gonna give it a 4 because it's calling me. This is like my favorite type of shallow depth of field photography. So you're preaching to the judge here. But I also think there's a couple things that could have been done with this setup or in this place to get an even more aesthetically clean and beautiful image. Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one for me to judge. All right, Cesar Guzman. Not sure if this counts as shallow depth of field, but it is Valentine weekend, and I'm a hopeless romantic. F1.8 on this 50 millimeter. Well, I think it counts as shallow depth of field. I mean, you got a sliver in focus with this couple on the bench, which I love. I love the negative space. It's very cool with them in focus, and then everything out of focus. I think my main critique or thought is like I actually don't mind the grassy texture in the foreground being out of focus. I almost want more of that. I kind of feel like maybe even tilting down and giving them just a slight bit more of breathing room in the corner would be nice. And then I don't know, maybe it's the fact that these lines are crooked, like you can see the bridge, the buildings are off in the background, but the bench is like pretty level, which is nice. So maybe there's a way of marrying that. It's slightly out of focus too. Like they're pretty sharp, but they're slightly out of focus. It's a tough one to get them. Yeah, they're a little out of focus. David also likes the low perspective. Yeah, I like that. It's kind of cool. Maybe it's also just like cropping out this tree over here would have been the trunk of the tree. Maybe, I don't know. I feel like if they were sharp and if the framing was just a little cleaned up or something, this would be a 4 for me. I'm going to give this one a 3. Really good job, really good exposures and creative. I think it's just like the sharpness is just a little off, keeping me from giving it a 4. And for like this, compared to the photo of the flower, I feel like this one, we need our subjects to be sharp. All right, Priya. A mother's arms are the first safe place any life ever knows. All right. I don't have any other info about that. Well, nice shallow depth of field and focus, and really cool editing. It's very artistic edit. You got this nice vignetting going on. Looks like some custom masks and exposures going on, which really highlights the animals in the front, which is nice. Almost overexposed a little bit, but so maybe you could bring down that exposure just a little bit on the fur to get back a little detail. I think the only other thing where this moment or this scene could be improved is to be able to see the face of the little monkey. Is that a monkey? Ape monkey? Yeah. Just being able to see their face, I think, would be nice, because right now it's kind of like hard to tell what's going on. Is that like a fruit or food that it's trying to get or something like that? I think storytelling wise, seeing their face or seeing what they're doing would be nice. But otherwise, this is a very creative, fun photo. Nice edit as well. Nice colors. And for that reason, I'm going to give it a 4 star. 4 lightning bolts. All right. And 21 likes. A lot of people like that one. Jeffrey, Sunset Park, Las Vegas. Shallow depth of field. The ducks and geese here are domesticated enough that I was able to get them. All right. So this, Lumix. Okay. All right. So fun scene of the ducks and the geese hanging out together. I don't know if this counts as shallow depth of field for me. There's a little bit of out of focusness in the background, but when I think of shallow depth of field, I'm really thinking like the background's got to be out of focus. Or if you're focused on the background, like the foreground really has to be out of focus and elements in the frame that look blurry. So I don't know if this counts as shallow depth of field for me. But for this photo, something I would do, I would definitely level it out and crop it to probably this fence line and it's close. I don't know. Maybe just give it a little headroom. Just like tilt up a little bit, or don't crop the top just a little bit. This, is that a goose? That's not a swan, right? That's goose. I feel like it's kind of close to the top edge. And I think this is a photo where like you're either picking one of these to try to highlight, or like just trying to get the whole scene. And here you're right kind of in the middle of that. But you're kind of more towards like getting the full scene. So I'd probably just widen out, tilt up, trying to just get this beautiful park and this whole area. I think because it doesn't hit the shallow depth of field theme for me so much, I'm giving it a 1 star. And I hate giving 1 stars. I hate giving anything below 3 stars, but I have to. I have to be critical. And hopefully that just inspires you to get back here next week and prove me wrong. Get something a little bit higher than that next time. All right, Darren. iPhone 13, which is hard to get shallow depth of field, but you somewhat achieved that here. Is this just grass or plants? Looking towards sunrise. Okay, so what I like about the photo is the creative angle. So you get that phone, which is easy and nice to be able to do with a phone, is like get right down there on the ground. And then you got this cool sunrise. Was it sunrise or sunset? Sunrise, with like this V of clouds, which is like kind of like these nice leading lines in the clouds going towards the center of the frame. Horizontal horizon, half split frame of like the foreground and the sky. Love all that. I think that I want to be able to see the foreground a little bit better because that's what's in focus. I think this photo probably would lend itself to having the sky and the background actually in focus with just like blurry foreground. But because you chose to have the foreground in focus, I want to be able to see that a little bit more. It's so dark, I don't really get to see what this is. Like these plants, it looks like some frost. So brightening that up would help. Or if there was some specific plant, if there was some specific plant, flower, thing that was sitting on the ground where that could be the main focus and you focus on that, I think that would be nice too. Because right now, I really don't know what to look at. I want to look at the beautiful sky, and that's kind of out of focus. And so, yeah, I'm not really sure. I think the perspective is really cool. My dog is chewing her foot, and she does that incessantly. And I need to remind her, don't chew on your foot. Sorry. And so, yeah, for all those reasons, I'm going to give it a 2. I think even just brightening up the foreground would help, though. All right, next we've got Michael with the tomatoes. I can't wait to have tomatoes. It's almost tomato planting time. I asked my wife last week, is it time to plant tomatoes yet? Not yet. All right, cool. So I think subject-wise, this is a great choice for shallow depth of field. You do have shallow depth of field. Cool texture in the background that is, when blurry, looks cool. The things that I would improve are, I feel like there's still a little bit of softness. I think maybe the front part of this tomato is in focus, but then the back and the stem are out of focus just slightly. So just tweaking that a little bit. And with something like this, maybe even playing around with like the positioning. Like you could lift up this tomato vine and get it straight up and down along this, or maybe crop out the cage part right here or something, get the stem going up and down. Playing around with that, I think, could have helped. I maybe tried to get all 3 of those tomatoes in focus, or at least the front one perfectly in focus. Would have been, I think, better. But it's very close to being in focus, but still I'm going to give it a 3. I think hits completed the challenge. Doesn't necessarily stand out to me that creatively, though. And maybe there's a way to do that, cleaning up the frame, cleaning up like some of the stuff that's around it. I do like the centering of the tomatoes. That's cool. That was a cool choice to have it centered in the frame. All right, Anya, I posted this image before as a post here, wondering if it works with the flowers out of focus. So I was talking before about, shallow depth of field. I usually think of something with blurry background, or maybe something blurry in the foreground with something in focus in the background. I don't know. Does this work for you guys? Does it work as shallow depth of field? I think the opposite would have felt more shallow depth of fieldy for me, to have these flowers in focus. And these are such cool looking flowers that I kind of want to see those in focus. Right now, it feels like they're kind of blocking my view. And I like putting things in front of my lens to create depth and framing and things like that. But for this case, I think you need to actually be closer to these flowers and have them be more abstract shapes in the frame, framing this really cool mountain. Otherwise, like right now, it just looks like they're out of focus. So I'm not sure if this works for me. The setting looks really cool. The mountain's cool, but for out of focus or shallow depth of field, I don't know if it works. That being said, I like I said, if you were closer up on them and they were more out of focus, and you were like tilted up a bit, you didn't have the bottom of the ground here, you're just tilted up in the middle of these, that could have been a cool photo, I think. But I'm gonna give it a 2. It's not like total missed the mark, but I think, I don't know, for me, if that fit shallow depth of field. Get out there and take new photos. Try something new. All right, Arthur, our hummingbird. Hummingbirds are so cool. Ooh, what is that? That is a fun one. When you are close up, when I'm scrolling through, you can see, a lot of its sharpness it's pretty sharp. I think it's just the A6400 had to crop it. Yeah, it's just the detail of the pixels and the noise that you're getting that makes it feel a little not in focus, but you did pretty good. So I like the framing of the hummingbird. The colors are beautiful. I would probably brighten up the bird itself just a little bit so that you can see more of the detail of the feathers. Maybe brighten, but also have some contrast in there. Push the blacks down, bring the rest of the exposures up just a little bit. That beak is like so orange. That's really cool. I think you're limited to the tools that you have, meaning your A6400, which is crop sensor, and whatever lens. But otherwise, this is like a really nice photo. I just wish that the quality of the image was a little higher. But otherwise, beautiful photo and cool bird. And for that reason, you're going to get 4 for me. But probably just brighten up. Brighten up. I want to see the bird a little bit more. Maybe it's a 3. I don't know. 4, 3. All right, Bojan. At the zoo, got the 220 on the D780. Wow, that's nice. Shallow depth of field and nice focus. The eyes look pretty sharp. I would probably sharpen up the eyes just a little bit. But right in the middle of eating, I don't know what that is. That like a grape or some fruit or something? That's really nice. Yeah, no, really, really nice photo. I'd probably brighten up the face, this whole area just a little bit. The light on the back is like really cool. Maybe wish you would have angled a little bit more towards the face. Like if you were to the right just a little bit, you would have cropped out this weird highlighted whatever that is. And just gotten like a little bit more of a better angle on the face, but otherwise really beautiful photo. I think even with this photo, just brightening up the head, the arm, even with the eyes, like doing a specific mask to sharpen up those eyes or add more contrast would help. But this one's really, really good. Technically nice photo. I mean, in terms of creative composition, it's not super creative to me, but for this photo, it's really like spot on. And so I'm going to give you 5. 5 lightning bolts. Nice. All right. Barbara took on morning walk with the iPhone. This mushrooms scare me because I always feel like I'm accidentally going to eat it, even though like I don't know how that would happen. But that is cool. That is a cool mushroom. I love the subject. I like the blurry background that it's in. It's very soft. I don't know if it's the iPhone shell like portrait mode thing that's making like the edges really weird and like it has like a mask around it. It's probably like just like the portrait mode on the iPhone, which I don't like, but really cool photo that it's hard to get without an iPhone. It's cool that you can get a photo like this just using your iPhone. Room for improvement, maybe just add some texture, clarity, or contrast or something to the top of this mushroom. You got this like blue in there and these cool textures. I would probably push that a little bit when editing to make those pop a little bit more. But otherwise, really cool shot. So I'm going to give you a 4. Nice photo, Barbara. Looks like you edited it in Snapseed. Fun. All right, Vincent. Another mushroom. It's the battle of the mushrooms. All right. Ooh, now that one's nice. And this one you can tell, what was the shot on? It doesn't have the camera. But this one, you can tell, was probably shot with not an iPhone. The way the focus is and it falls off is nicer than the iPhone photos, and the iPhone just hasn't caught up to that yet, as amazing as it is. And I really like this. I mean, this is a tough photo to get all 3 of these mushrooms in focus, which you've done. I think my one area for improvement would be probably play with the exposure on this one so that you get a little bit more texture and detail in there. And then also it's very cool. White balance, maybe that's what you're going for, but I might warm it up just a little bit because it looks a little cool. Probably because it was like cloudy and a cool blue day, but may warm it up just a little bit. But also I would say, man, if I gave Barbara as a 4, I think this one's got to be a 5 for me because I like this one even better. Yeah, great job. Nice. All right, Nita. Wow, we still have so many photos. All right, we're going to get through them though, folks. Nice. Okay. Back to what I said I was going to do earlier. One thing I like about it, one room for improvement. All right, while capturing the bug on the flower, spot on. Like without it, still would have been a good photo, but without it, I think it's not as epic of a photo. The bokeh in the background is amazing, and great exposure. Yeah, I don't have any critiques. I'm gonna give this one a 5 as well. Good job. All right, Wanya. Ooh, look at that pup. Nice. Also, great use of shallow depth of field, sharp on the pup. I would brighten up the exposure on the pup just a bit. It's just overall a little dark. I don't mind the coolness. Maybe I would have gone in there, brightened up just the pup and warmed them up just a tiny bit. I kind of want to see their eyes just a little bit. I know this dog has a lot of fur over its eye, but just brightening up would have helped. But otherwise, like, nice setup and great focus. 4 lightning bolts for me. All right, next we got Ian. Ooh, we did the mushrooms and now we got the pets. All right, lovely, lovely cat. Love the cats. Always hard to get focus perfect on the cat's eyes and deep enough. So I like that the cat is mostly in focus, the eye is in focus. I probably would have wanted a closed down aperture or something just so that you can get a little bit more of the fur and the nose in focus as well. I don't think you would, with this lens and this setup, you would have been able to get the eyes and the nose in focus, but just a little bit more of the fur, because just the fact that this part of the nose is blurry makes it almost look like the eyes are out of focus, which they're not. I also feel like the angle coming from above, I feel like I want to be straight on with your cat a little bit more, or just have a little bit more room beneath. It feels like kind of tight crop on the chin, but still pretty solid execution of shallow depth of field. So 3 stars for me. All right, Gustavo. Lots of new photographers posting. Nice bee photo. Lovely. I like the portrait side of the bee in there. Same thing though. I'd probably boost the exposure just a little bit. Saturation, I'd pull back. It feels a little oversaturated. And one thing I think you could have done, although I kind of like this angle with the flower, but again, pay attention to the bokeh in the background, because if this bee and the flower, I think if the camera was down a little bit and the background of behind the flower and the bee was all of this green and even this whitish highlight in the background, the bee would have popped and the flower would have popped. But now you've got like this, I don't know what this is in the background, a sidewalk, a street, I don't know what that is. It's kind of like blending in with the bee, the exposure and the color of the bee. And so I think it would have been cool to separate them, but still really awesome job. 4 lightning bolts from me for this photo. All right, next we got Emanuele. More cats. Love the cats. Well, plus extra credit for the cat. I like the natural pose. This is one where I probably would have preferred like a cleaner line. So either that's angling it, moving the angle of you to the right so you can photograph straight on, or even just a crop or rotate, just slight adjustment to get this line being perfectly straight across the frame. I would also do a little bit of noise reduction. I don't know if you were going for noisy and grainy in this photo, but like it feels like a little over grainy because you probably shot at a super high ISO. ISO 800. I guess it's just that Canon T7. Yeah, the quality, it's pushing that quality, so you're getting a lot of noise and grain in there. But like pretty solid photo. I'm gonna give it a 3. Emanuele, your photos like all have like such a nice quality to them. I love the color palette that you have and use, and just like that natural moment as well. Close to a 4. I don't know. Carrie took almost 6 years ago. Daughter was teething. Just wanted to snuggle her mama. Nice focus. So shallow depth of field, but focus on their faces is solid. The overexposure from the window behind and the side, I actually don't mind in this case, even though your hair is like overexposed, blown out. I don't mind that. I kind of wish there was a little bit of more contrast on your face or something. It's kind of starts to get lost in one exposure. And also the glasses is tough because I want to see your eyes. But otherwise, like pretty solid framing and creative editing. And yeah, I mean, this is like really good. It maybe is a 4, maybe is a 3. I'm not sure. 3.5. Sometimes I wish I had half stars because I don't feel like it's just a 3 compared to some of them. So I'm going to give you a 4. Yeah. All right. Carl. 85mm macro lens. That's a fun photo. Yeah. Water droplets. Love that. So I love the choice, the subject. I love that bokeh you get with the water droplets in the background. Look at that. That's amazing. I think the area for improvement, this is so hard. It's slightly out of focus, and that's just tough to get perfectly in focus, this water droplet, but the water droplet itself is slightly out of focus. Also, yeah, I don't know. The background, I don't know if there was another leaf with another water droplet that would have been better to photograph. I kind of want to be a little tighter in on this one. It's so small in the frame compared to this whole background that it feels like I need to be, it needs to take up more space in the frame to really catch my attention. But still, abstract wise, I have a lot of, I mean, that photo, no, that's not my water droplet photo. I have a water droplet photo very similar somewhere. I don't know where it is. I'm going to give you a 3. Really good job. I think subject choice is great, but composition, I think finding a way to highlight a singular water droplet without like the distraction of this other grass, and maybe it's like this dark patch right here that I don't like. I don't know, something like that could have helped it. Hong Wang, this is at the Panama's Metropolitan Nature Park last summer. Sony A7R5. That's really cool. I love the contrast of colors from this flower to the green background. You got some foreground elements that are cool there as well. Is that like a bug right there? Is that an ant? I mean, I see there's like a bug right here. I can't tell if that's one right there as well or not. Sharp focus on the plant. Details. Saturation is actually pretty cool. It's a little saturated-y, oversaturated, but it kind of lends itself to this photo being this colorful plant. I feel like because the bug is right there, maybe brightening this area up would be nice so you can see it a little bit better. Or waiting for a different moment where the bug was like somewhere else so that you can see it a little bit better, because I feel like that does play a good part in the story of this photo. But otherwise, this one stands out to me. Good background, out of focus, nice contrast between the background, foreground element. So 4 stars for me. All right, Rosemary, curled leaf. Ooh, this is fun too. Nice texture of the leaf. And this is one where you're not trying to get the whole thing in focus. You're just trying to get a part of this leaf in focus, which I think is pretty cool. I don't know if I like the texture of this looks like you put it on like a canvas or something, which is kind of cool. But then you have this part of the canvas in focus, and I kind of wish the canvas was all out of focus. And again, I think that because the area of focus is so small, it's hard to appreciate the detail of what's in focus. And so whether that's getting a little closer or choosing a part of the leaf where you could have a little bit more of it in focus, maybe turning it a little bit, I don't know, something where I want to appreciate the texture of what's in focus, but there's so little in focus that it's hard to do that. But I'm being pretty critical because I actually really like this photo and creative setup. I think I'm going to give it a 3. Like, you hit the shallow depth of field, got creative with it. Maybe it's a 4. I don't know. Maybe it's a 4. I like it. Yeah. I think extra effort. And I think did you take this photo? I feel like everyone who takes a photo during the week of the challenge should get extra credit, because it's easy to go back in time and find a photo, but to get out there and take one, I think that deserves some extra credit. All right, Mubin, shot this for my brother's bike photo shoot. Wow, crazy bokeh that you get back there. What lens is that? That is fun. The Tamron 17-70. Wow. Yeah, that is some interesting bokeh that you get, which is pretty cool. Nice. So I like the sharpness. I think my room for improvement would be to give a little bit more headroom. I don't know I think this is your brother, you said. A little more headroom. It's a little tight, and even the bike is a little cropped, a little tight to the edge of the frame. If you're gonna crop, maybe even like you could have been tighter and cropped out some of the bike, but just given a little bit more headroom, I think would be cool. And also pay attention. Like here, I think the camera is down low, which usually I say put your camera down low, put it in weird, funky places. But here, pay attention to the background, and just the exposure of your brother's hair sort of matches the darkness of the background, and trying to separate those two things, maybe putting the camera up where, the background is more of this highlighted tree with the cool bokeh, would have made your brothers pop a little bit more from the background. 3 stars though, really good focus and good use of shallow depth of field. Paul Anderson. Ooh, this is fun. Nice. Very cool photo. I like the creative crop, wide crop, and the moment, amazing. I know how hard it is to get a photo like this, and the sharpness is pretty close to being sharp, especially where you want it, which is on the bird's face. And the background of the pine needles is really cool out of focus. I probably would have just gone in here and seen if I could bring up the shadows of the subject, just of this area, just to get a little bit more exposure on the bird. But otherwise, like, very creative crop, nice focus, and it's a bird, so you get extra credit. 5 stars for me. Great photo. Love it. All right. Next, we've got Enrique. Ooh, this is fun. Ooh, that's nice. Super simple, super clean background, which I love. And look at that, straight up and down. Love that. kind of want to be a little tighter. Like I could probably be 20, I don't know, even like 10 to 20% tighter in on this, because this is the cool part of this plant right here. I don't personally care much for like this bottom 10%, but I kind of also get wanting the whole thing in there as well. But the focus is nice, and yeah, really good colors and contrast between the foreground and background elements. So I would do 4 stars for this one. I think that if this was closer, I personally would have liked it more and could see the details. I mean, if this was like printed out, a big poster, you could see those details, but even on my big computer screen, it's hard to see those photos or those details. All right, Grace. To be brutally honest with y'all, I don't know what it is, but this is one of my favorite shots I have captured. Well, I love that you love this photo, and that makes me so happy. I think if I just saw this photo, it doesn't stand out to me that much in terms of like a photo I would like, but I'm so happy that you found a photo that you love, because that's what photography is, baby. It's just about your own likes and dislikes and preferences. I don't know if in shallow depth of field, if this really works for me. I think that the exposure, I don't know what to really look at in this photo. I do not know how to judge this one. You got this branch coming down the middle. I kind of wish that was like in focus with the background out of focus, but like the background is also kind of in focus. At least there's this path with these trees and grass in focus. But it's definitely like this just scene, this vibe, this location that I think probably is. I mean, I have photos like this too, where no one else would think that it might be an amazing photo, but to me, it's just like the setting, the place, whatever, the lighting, whatever it was, it brings back memories that makes those photos amazing. I guess I'm going to give this a 2, because for shallow depth of field, it doesn't hit the mark for me. But because you're so excited about it, I'm not going to give it a 1. And I don't want to sound harsh, but I feel like for this challenge, I don't know if this photo worked, but maybe for like black and white, this would have been a cool photo. All right. Sharath. Ooh, this is a fun photo. Nice. I like the centering of your subject. I like that this one is in focus. I can't tell if the lighting is all natural or if you did a bit of a like, it kind of looks like you did a mask and you brightened up this one and then you darkened the rest of them, which does make this one stand out nicely. I probably, instead of using like a circular or object selection mask, to just select this one to get like a more natural looking photo. I probably would have used like a linear gradient where it's like the bottom half of this photo and then the top half of this photo. Create mask for that, and then have like more of like a sliver of light across the middle, and then darken the bottom and the background, because right now it looks a little like too edited, but that's like because I'm looking like really detailed at it, or maybe it's just like feathering that edge or something out. I still think it's like a cool shallow depth of field shot, and a cool idea for this challenge. So I think just with those couple editing tweaks, it would help. I'm gonna give it a 4, maybe a 4, 3, leaning 4, leaning 3. Other than looking kind of edited in a weird way, I think it's a really cool shot. I do think that you you took what I said and playing with the contrast and the lighting really makes this one stand out well. All right, and then we got Thomas, random earshot taken this week. If you're reading this AVIF, I don't know what AV is. That like a raw format? I don't have control over what formats are allowed, but probably JPEG is the best because just in terms of sharing, like we have a limited amount of space, hosting space, or I have to pay more. And so keeping your files, JPEG, even for screen, JPEG's super high quality. You're not going to see much of a difference in sharing a JPEG versus, a raw file on a screen like this. But anyways, cool earshot. The colors are fun as always. I like Thomas's work with colors, and you got like something in focus, shallow depth of field, the ear, the top of this hat. It's got this cool vibe going with these glasses with the highlights. It's creative for sure. I don't know if it's like my favorite shot of yours. I would probably give it like a 3 because you hit shallow depth of field. The focus is there. There's nothing really wrong with this photo. I think for me, it's just not my cup of tea for like something that stands out. Maybe if like the ear, you could see like it has this cool stud in it. Like, I don't know. Maybe there's something. If there was something more interesting to look at, I think it would help. But that being said, colors are really cool too. Okay, I think. Oh, we got more. We got more, folks. I thought that was the last one. All right, we got Shreyan. I knew the shallow depth of field was going to have so many photos. Borneo. This monkey, proboscis, that is cool. All right, well, nice capture, nice focus on, I think the focus is sharp. It's a little dark. I'd probably like brighten it up just a little bit. And I think the angle, I want to see the whole face. I think that would be my biggest thing. And then in post, you could brighten everything up just a little bit. But overall, like, nice shot. 3, wildlife photography, it's so hard to get everything that you want. There's a lot of distractions going on with like these branches and leaves, and compared to some of the other photos of animals that we've seen where the background is a little cleaner, I think that's when they stand out to me. All right, Celeste with the kiwi. I don't even know how to say this word. Aonium Haworthy. Wow, I probably butchered that. But using those fairy lights to create this cool bokeh around this succulent plant is really cool. So nice work there. Nice, creativity. Good sharpness on the succulent and a good choice of subject. These are always nice aesthetically to photograph. I'm trying to say, what is this? Is it on like some sort of stand with like rocks or pebbles or something? I don't know. Yeah, I think this is a cool photo. I might have like leaned into the symmetry of it and tried to like photograph it perfectly symmetrical. But I like the extra work of putting up the fairy lights, getting that there, because that makes it like just magical, basically. I wonder if you are the fairy lights just in front of it, because I feel like if it would have like gone in front and behind, that would have been kind of cool. I think it's maybe for me, it's just like the background that's like bothering me a little bit, like whether this is a window or I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm going to give you a 4 because I think the effort that went into getting this shot deserves some extra credit, and the shallow depth of field with those foreground elements out of focus is really, really neat. All right, Jerry with this cool part of a plant. I like the textures of the flower. It's slightly out of focus though, right? And I think in this case, you want all of this to be in focus. The black and white I really like too, though. I think just if that focus had been a little sharper, would have been like a 4 or 5. David, oh, this is a note about something else. All right, I'm going to give this a 3, though. I think just because the focus is just slightly off. AVIF files are based on AV1 codec. It's better quality. Oh, interesting. I'm going to have to look into that. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm using the platform is Circle, and they just have their things that they allow. So it looks like AVIF files are not allowed to be uploaded. But if that's a higher quality, smaller, more compressed file, that's interesting. It seems like something that any website would want to use so that we're not taking up as much space. Todd, wildlife photography. Wow, look at that. That is cool. Man, this is such a cool photo, and it's so hard to get photos like this perfectly in focus. That's my only critique. And it's not a bad photo, but it's just, it would have been 10 stars if the face was in focus. But because there's the motion blur of probably the motion of the camera, the flying bird, yeah, I wish that face was in focus. I don't care about the wings as much and the feathers, but the face, that would have made this so much better. Otherwise, though, this is like great background out of focus, great subject in focus for the most part. Maybe like if you could have framed it with a little bit more space in front, just to give it some more headroom in front of the motion, that would have been nice. But otherwise, what a cool shot. Juvenile bald eagle. Nice. Phyllis Fox, another orchid. Ooh, and I really like this one. So we had an orchid before. I think I like this one because it pops from the background very nicely. I probably would have framed it up, gotten rid of this little green spot in the background, which is kind of a distraction. But I like that these orchids in the front are in focus and the back ones fall out of focus, but that's okay. So I'm going to give you a 4-star because it hits the theme, and you excelled quite a bit with just framing it up. Nice texture, nice exposures as well. All right, next we got Rick Blank. Bees. Fun to photograph bees. I feel like this is like a good effort shot. Like really good effort to try to get this photo. I think that the framing is off. Like you want to have just this bee and this flower in the frame. So shifting the frame to the right just a little bit. And then the focus is just slightly too shallow. I would probably have wanted a deeper depth of field just to make sure that this whole flower and the bee are mostly in focus. That being said, with this photo, you could probably crop out this left side, brighten it up, and boost that saturation a little bit. It looks a little muted. For all those reasons, 3, but still pretty good. Pretty cool shot. A lot to work with here with editing. Katya. Ooh, this is cool. Fuji. Ooh, the Viltrox 56mm. I've never tried that lens. Nice. Great background things to be out of focus, which I love. The bell in the foreground is a pretty cool subject. my room for improvement would probably have been to frame it up, maybe putting the camera up a little bit so that the bell was more, the background behind the bell was like more of like these lights down below, and crop or frame out this part of the building or post or whatever this is that's in focus, and just have that bell be in focus. But I really like the colors on this one. I kind of like seeing the people in the background too. So again, I think if the camera was up higher and it was still focused on the bell, but you saw like some more people down below because the camera's up higher, you're going to see more down in the background. I think seeing the people in the background would be nice still. Story-wise, if there was someone like holding this rope, would have been cool. I think like this is like, I don't know. Is it like a 4? Maybe it's a 4. Yeah. I feel like I've been giving a lot more 4s in the second half of today's show, which I keep doing. I need to stop doing that. I'm like more critical in the beginning, but I like the colors and the lights in the background, like a good choice of shallow depth of field with those lights in the background. All right, Suzanne. Oh, God, that is nasty to look at. This is like stuff out of nightmares. Oh, that is a lot of flies. Oh my gosh, Suzanne, that's crazy. The colors are good. The repetition and pattern that you get with all these flies is actually really cool. You get the shape of the fork, so you know exactly what this is. You get a couple flies here in focus, or this one here in focus. It's like almost out of focus. I feel like the depth of field could have been a little deeper, just to get a couple of these flies in focus, maybe. Or maybe it's just the moment. I don't know. This is really cool, actually. I kind of don't like this. It looks like the edge of the plate on the bottom. There, it's kind of a distracting around here. But otherwise, like, crop that out. And as much as this like gives me the heebie-jeebies, I'm going to give this a 5 stars. It's so icky. I love it. That's Rosemary. Carolyn, it's nasty to look at, but they're surprisingly beautiful, like little jewels. that is so funny. Like little jewels. I've never heard of flies described as little jewels, but that is as close to little jewels as you can make them look. All right, Eric Harvey got this bird. Extra credit for the birds. All right, love the bird. Love the textures of all these flowers in the background. Lighting is really harsh. So maybe softening that up by like masking out the subject, bringing up the shadows again. And that's what I feel like with birds, animals, it's always an issue with like not being able to see the textures of the fur. So darkening those or brightening them and just getting a more even exposure, which you kind of have to do in post. Otherwise, this is a really cool shot. I might have like, I feel like this is a cool photo where the bird or framing would have been cool, like to the left side of the frame, more like over here, and have a lot of negative space on the right side because the bird is looking to the right. But overall, still a really nice photo. I think just with a couple editing tweaks, it could have been improved with the exposures on the bird, but 4 stars for me. Great job. Michelle, I don't know if you've posted this photo or someone else. I don't think you have actually posted this photo, but this is cool. 5 stars for me just because the ethereal, beautiful quality of these little wishing flower dandelion things. Dandelion, is that what the technical name is? I love like this out of focus weird bokeh that you get. I guess the focus, it's a little soft, maybe like having a little bit deeper focus so you could really see the details of this flower would have been nice, but the centering, the colors, everything really cool. Just really like this photo. All right, Janet. Old image from Italian chapel in Scotland. Oh, nice. This reminds me of David's early photo, the Mona Lisa, where you have something in focus in the foreground that kind of matches what's in the background. And I like sort of that silhouetting that you get there. I think I probably, you see the cross on top of this little thing in the background on this altar. I probably would have wanted the camera to be a little bit lower or something and have this cross take up more space. I think that would have been nice, because right now it's taking up such little space that it's one of those ones where it almost feels like the whole photo is out of focus. It's also, I think, has to do with the foreground being silhouetted and the background color. Your eye is drawn towards the color, the bright part of the photo. I feel like I'm going to give you a 2. I'm putting my critical hat back on. My critical hat. Here we go. Critical hat. I think the idea is 4 or 5 star. Execution wise, hopefully what I said can help make that a little bit better. All right, Cree Harris. Ooh, this is fun. Nice little lizard. This is a great one. Focus on the face is good. Lovely texture. Great fall off in the background. Here, the background does not distract from the foreground of our little lizard friend. And I'm going to give this 5 stars. Great use of shallow depth of field. And exposure-wise, really good. Pretty much across the board. There's some that falls off into the shadow, but I don't necessarily mind that because most of it is pretty exposed well. Maybe used a little mask or brightened up the eye right there to see like a little bit more detail in the eye. But otherwise, I love the textures and colors of this photo. We got Kaylin, visited a temple this weekend for Chinese New Year. Extra credit for taking your photo this week. Good job. Nice. I think the shallow depth of fieldness of it is not as apparent because I don't know what lens you were using. Don't know the settings, but the background is not that much out of focus compared to the foreground. You get like nice textures of the statue, the colors and the patterns in the background, but again, the focus is pretty sharp across the board. And then overall, I feel like the exposure is a little dark. I'd probably brighten it up. There is some shallow depth of field there, and I'm going to give you a 2 for that, but I think it's not that apparent. That's like, it's not like a photo where you say, oh, wow, that's like really cool shallow depth of field, which is kind of what I was hoping for this challenge. All right, we got Timothy. On the other hand, like this is like super shallow depth of field, but great job getting the focus on the face of our little grasshopper friend here. Look at that sliver of shallow depth of field. You see the sliver with the ground, the rocks below or the floor, but you got the face in focus, which is awesome. Yeah, I mean, this is a great portrait of this bug. I don't have much critique. It pops from the background. There's not much distracting from the background, and this must have been pretty difficult to get this photo. So I'm gonna give it a 5 star. Paul Anderson says, "Wow." Oh my gosh, I disappeared. How did that happen? Where am I? Camera, where am I? I am here. It disappeared. I don't know how I did that. All right. So great job. Mirella, older pick. Nice. So good focus on the snake. Really interesting way that it comes from above the frame, which is cool, with clean background. Shallow depth of field is still there because you see the rest of the snake out of focus. Yeah, I mean, this is like a good shot. I love the shape, the centering as well. I almost wish there was a little bit deeper depth of field to get like the full tongue in focus. I mean, if I gave the grasshopper photo 5, I feel like I'm gonna give this one 5 as well. Yeah, great. Just a cool photo. All right, Andrea Simpson. Flower, beautiful flower. Flowers. Where is this, like in the sky or on water? Dreamy carnation. I used glitter card in the background. Okay, yeah. I was like, what is this background? I think shallow depth of field is amazing. I love the bokeh you get with that glitter card that you added. I like the addition of these small flowers to create depth. Them out of focus looks amazing. I think the white balance is the one area that I would play with. It looks a little cool. And so I'd warm it up just a little bit overall. And these are supposed to be white, right? So you can tell that it's a little bluey. And I don't know if anyone has kids. But yeah, warm that up. I think creatively, I'm going to give this a 4, though. I think just that with the white balance adjustment, it would look really good. So play around with that. Great job. All right, Diana. Gosh, we're going to go 2 hours today. This is crazy. I need another cup of coffee. Diana tried capturing this tiny flower. Nice. Nice focus. I like the depth you get shooting through this grass. I kind of want to see the front of the flower. This is one of those cases where this is like up to you as a photographer. I might have tilted the flower just slightly toward me. Tried to do that either with my hand, like sometimes I'll literally be like this with the flower, tilt with my camera, just so you get a little bit more of that yellow in the center, which I think is cool. With this photo, I probably would have just maybe straightened it out and have it gone straight up and down. The portrait view of the flower is not bad. It still could be cool. Yeah, I think I'm going to give it a 3. You did the shallow depth of field really well. And there's nothing really wrong with it. I don't know. There's just something that like maybe seeing the front of the flower would have pushed it to like a 4 for me. Still beautiful. Nice macro shot. And we are at our last one. Lots of flowers, which I love. This is like a water lily. I don't know. Nice focus on the flower itself. Nice colors. And if you're going to use a watermark, this is the watermark I want to see. Tiny and not too distracting. So I'm happy no one posted a photo with a big old watermark in it. So yeah, I like looking. I think Star of Cetus, are you talking about this photo? I like the angle as well, kind of looking down at it. And I think just that the flower pops from the background really well. So great flower shot. I'm going to give you a 4. I don't know if there's anything that could have made this a 5. Maybe it's just like the subject is not perfect, and it doesn't need to be perfect, but like you have this one petal that's like kind of coming out. I don't know if this is a flower that opens up eventually, but maybe like having it more open would have been interesting, like a different time of the day or year. I don't know what this flower does, or maybe it just stays closed like that. But wow, good job, everyone. Shallow depth of field. What a challenge that was. I think that was our most attended weekly photo challenge in a while. So really amazing job, maybe ever. So right now I see 16 comments. That doesn't mean 16 submissions, but 16 comments on the In a Mirror challenge. I know this one's a little bit more specific and difficult, but get out there. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in a actual mirror, but it could be a reflection in a window or something that acts like a mirror. I think we might have a reflection challenge as well. I know we've done that in the past. So if you can use a mirror, that would be cool. But yeah, get creative with it. As I mentioned before, now is the time, if you would like, to become a supporter, because in March, we are starting the whole new supporter experience. So thank you for everyone who participates. Supporters are those of you who, for $5 a month, one coffee donation, you help run the community, keep it alive. And I'm trying to give back a little bit more by making it a little bit more enticing for you. So if you weren't here in the beginning, I'll just go over this really quickly. A little preview of what this is going to look like. Starting in March, we're going to have a monthly exercise where each month, sort of on top of the weekly challenges, which are a bit more specific, we'll have a theme that we're working on. All month, it could be like landscape photography, black and white photography, mobile photography. I'm going to put the vote to you as well, which if you are a supporter now, make sure you fill out this survey. Just pick one of these topics, which is going to be our first month's one. And if you have other topics that you're interested in, comment below. So that's going to be the monthly exercise. It comes with a free class. So we'll be giving away one of our classes that's related to this topic. And it'll have some tips. It'll have some an inspirational photographer to look at. And yeah, we'll also be doing a photo editing challenge called Let's Edit a Photo, where we'll all edit the same photo and we can see how each of us edits, gets creative with it. If you have a photo that you would like me and the rest of the crew to edit, submit it here. I'll be recording a tutorial of my process of editing that photo that you'll get access to. And then we will also be doing a photographer showcase. Again, I mentioned this before. I think this actually might be something where, I don't know. The idea is I want to highlight our members and I want to show off your amazing work with the world. And so I feel a little weird limiting this to just supporters, like only supporters can be in the showcase. But because there's going to be a lot of other photographers here who are free members who just, are worthy of being shown to the world. But I also feel like, that's what you get as a supporter. But for now, we're just going to be letting our supporters at least nominate someone, and that can be themselves as well. So if you'd like to be nominated, or if you have someone to nominate, please, you can go in here as a supporter now and start doing that. And what this will be is within the community, there will be a highlight, like a little profile with some of their photography. But also, I think this will be something that I email out. I'm not as much on social media, but if I do something, I'll post it on social as well, to share with the whole community at large to highlight one of our photographers. And there's also going to be a chat space. This is not live yet to any supporters, but basically what this is just a live chat space, kind of like a Slack channel where we can just chat Members can chat with each other more directly, more naturally, kind of like a big group chat with all of the other members. So all of that is what you get as a supporter, which if you are in the community, if you just click on any of these pages, you won't see this. You'll just see the way to sign up. $5 a month. You get a free month if you do the annual membership. And yeah, we're just going to see how it goes. So again, thank you to all of our existing supporters. I really appreciate you. And with that, we will see you next week. As always, have a beautiful day. Almost made it 2 hours today. And yeah, next week, same time, same place. And stay tuned. I am creating a course on AI for photography. Now, don't get mad at me, and I don't want to get mad at myself. This is not a course on how to replace us by robots or by AI. This is not a course on how to generate photos with AI. This is a course on how to responsibly and what I would say ethically use the tools that we have available, that some of them are very cool to help us as a photographer. Things like how to organize and cull our photos quickly, how to use some of the editing features like denoising and upscaling and better masking. And I'm going to have demonstrations on all sorts of the tools. So not just Lightroom's AI enhancements that they've added, but all sorts of other tools, as well as things like how to use it for like a photo business, whether that's coming up with drafting a contract with the client or emails that you might use. So lots of fun stuff. I'm brainstorming it right now. Just stay tuned for that. And that'll be coming out pretty quickly because I'm really excited to get this one out. But yeah, otherwise, peace, deuces, much love, and I will see you next time. Thanks for being here live, everyone, and in the replay. Bye.